Welcome to Talking Tech Journeys, hosted by me, Ben Whiteley of BPM Tech. We're delighted to bring you season 1 of Talking Tech Journeys. The aim is clear, to bring you some of the most engaging and respected figures within tech and transformation, providing a snapshot of their journeys to share knowledge, ideas and insights on all things tech and transformation. Sit back, relax and enjoy the journey. Hi, welcome to Talking Tech Journey Season 1. I'm Ben Whiteley, delighted to be joined by Jamie Bray, Technology Director at GoldVision. Really looking forward to this, Jamie. Thanks for joining. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thanks for having me on, Ben. I've watched a couple of your podcasts and they've been really interesting, so I'm really excited to chat to you today.
Good. Well, look, without further ado, we'll take you straight back and jump straight in. So how, why and when did you sort of first become interested in technology?
So I'm of that generation when technology back in the 80s and the 90s was really starting to become a thing, and like having a computer at home was like a real luxury. And my dad had brought a laptop home, and as a child I wanted to be on that and playing. And that was it really. From that point forward, the Commodore 64, and consoles, and then into Macs and PCs, and technology is really, I've always felt like I've always been part of technology in some way, shape or form. It's always been part of what I do. But it's been quite good being part of that generation where you kind of just started to grow up with technology. And I just fell into it. That's the honest truth. I fell into being a technology specialist.
Often the way. I mean, did that sort of influence your sort of, your schooling, your education, before you sort of, jumped into the world of employment?
Do you know what the funny thing is that for a long time in my head while I was at school, I really wanted to be a horse whisperer of all things.
Wow.
And horses were my passion, and IT was something that just came really naturally to me. It wasn't until probably I was about 14, 15, and everyone else had their weekend jobs in the hairdresser, and my weekend job was putting networks together for my mum and dad's company, or running the backups or whatever. But I suddenly realised that maybe my career was in IT rather than as a horse whisperer.
Well, yeah, I don't know what else to say on that really. So, I mean, you sort of just touched on there in terms of, I suppose, an almost indirect first job. So what was it? A sort of a family business, and I suppose how did that sort of shape you in terms of your first role, in the world of IT?
Yeah, so it's a family business, and also my parents did a lot of work for charity. So it was being involved in both those things, and at that time, it was oh, my son can do this, let him come along and do that. It was invaluable because you had the opportunity to make mistakes, and people paid you in biscuits and money, and if it wasn't quite right, they were grateful because you were still cheaper than the guy professional guys to get in. But it was really invaluable in sort of having that opportunity to learn and make mistakes, and have the support of those around you as well to say, do you know what, you gave it a try, or you've given it a go, or but the real sense of achievement of actually doing something. Like I remember putting my first network in. We didn't have the internet to go and so you were sat there with your books trying to work out how to do this, and it took me probably 10 or 12 attempts to, at the age of like 14, to get this network, install the network cards. And but yeah, no, again, it was something really, really cool to do. And I think on the background of finding school quite challenging as at the time, having that area that came quite naturally to me was just always something I really enjoyed.
Good, and which obviously formed part of your early career, sort of founding an IT support company. So how did that sort of come about?
The funny thing is it's, when you talk to people, they always say it's, oh wow, you set your own IT company up, and it wasn't. It was almost like I sat there with my with my mum, and we were eating toast. I remember it vividly. And she said, "Oh, our friend of ours are looking for someone to do it, but they only want someone for like a day a week. Do you think you should do that?" And I said, "Yeah, but." I said, what do you think I should do? And my mum said, just set up a company, just set up an IT company, and we'll help you with the marketing, and let's see where it goes from there. And it felt so passive and natural, and then we carried on eating our breakfast and carried on with it. And looking back on it, I think the one thing that was really interesting was like I didn't come into it really worried. It was like I was just concentrating on the technology, and that was the bit I really enjoyed doing. I think the bit that I at the time really struggled with was the marketing aspect of it and the sales aspect of it, because I didn't have those people skills. I didn't have those interpersonal skills. I didn't really have the ability to create those relationships with people to create those sales. So everything I got was through word of mouth. But I still did really well out of it, and I learned so much. And I think the biggest thing that came from it was a lot of my work there was with not-for-profit. Because I was so cheap. I was a really good, attractive option. So I got to work with, quite a large charity with, 500 users nationwide.
Wow.
And perhaps if I was a bit more expensive, I perhaps wouldn't have got to that point. But having that opportunity, and it really it was a baptism by fire. But actually, I learned you take away so much just from that experience alone. And running your own business, you always say yes. You have to say yes.
Yeah.
So I remember being sat there and someone going, "Oh, can you do networking?" I went, "Yeah, I can do networking." But what they meant was, can you lay network cables? Can you put network cables out? And I turned up, and they were like, "Yeah, we need networking here. This 3-4 building level building." And they went, "Oh, the only problem is you got to do it over a weekend." On the Friday to the Monday. And of course, being really young and naive, I went, "Yeah, of course I can." And then the drafting like loads of my uni friends in, and we had a while of a time that weekend doing network cabling. And again, baptism by fire, because you had to, we were learning on the job. But I didn't know at the time how important those skills would be as I progressed further into my career, and how important understanding the needs of customers and what they're looking for. And I think sometimes in today's world, we can really try and make something that's really simple really complex. And I think as a leader, I always bring myself back to what would the 19-20-year-old Jamie do in that situation. Is he going to go and do all these complicated things? Let's bring ourselves back to what the simpler answer is, and work it from there.
Yeah, good. And obviously then that sort of transition into owner/MD of sort of a software house. So again, sort of how was the transition from support to software?
So my degree's in software engineering, and I have a real passion for product and people. And I think, you and I have spoken at length over the years about my passion for people and product. I ended up talking to a very entrepreneurial businessman who ran a driver agency, and he spoke to me and said, "Oh, I see a gap for this. What do you think?" And I said, "Yeah, that sounds really good." And I said, "I'd love the opportunity to get involved in that, and I'd love the opportunity to be part of that." So we went 50-50 into it. I put up some of my money, he put up some of his money. And we successfully built driver recruitment software using the digital tachograph technology that just appeared, with boxes in places like Asda and Tesco, where drivers could put their tachograph in. It would do the analysis. It would understand how much time they spent driving, when they were next safe to drive, and that aided us in booking and being really effective in our booking rates and giving those customers that opportunity. But actually, one of the things that really, really interesting of that is that actually it made me realize that these big suppliers, these massive suppliers like Asda and Tesco, they're underpinned by those smaller companies. we always think, oh, everything, Asda does everything, or Tesco does everything else, but actually they rely so much on those smaller SMEs, and that's where my passion for the SME sector came from. I just love what a small medium business can do with 5 or 10 people, and the difference that can make in the industry. But that was great, and I love my time at Hawlett doing that, and I got the opportunity as well while I was there to book drivers onto shifts and do candidate screening. Which again, I think really helped me with my interpersonal skills, because up until that point, I was very much like an introvert, and there's nothing like having to ask a truck driver at 4 o'clock in the morning to get out of bed and go to work. That makes you a little bit more confident in yourself. So lots of things taken away from that, but a lot of interpersonal skills as well.
Yeah, so quite an entrepreneurial start then. And obviously, in terms of your career, you went on to join Retail Assist, who are, I suppose, an SME. So, I mean, was that always a sort of plan to start off in terms of, an entrepreneurial background and see where it sort of ended up in terms of joining an established business? Or
I got to the point where I'd met my current wife, and she was looking for a little bit more financial stability.
Yeah.
We were looking to buy a house together, and the opportunity came up to sell the businesses I had, and that was a really good opportunity to use that as a deposit for a house and other bits and pieces. But I also, from talking to friends at university, they were all sort of getting on really well in their careers, and they'd all gone to sort of more of a traditional route in development. And there was a bit of a longing and learning to be part of a team to learn some of that. And I felt at the time that a little bit lonely, and I felt like there was stuff lacking in my career that I wasn't quite getting running my own business. And the opportunity to work for Retail Assist just gave me a real opportunity to do something really different and something I'd never done before, for quite a small, at the time it was quite a small company, but for some really big brands. And again, similar sort of supporting those bigger branded names, but doing something in an SME. Really exciting. There's so many opportunities. And I think the biggest takeaway from that was just the colleagues there came from different walks of life. You had RPG developers, AS400 specialists, to cutting edge .NET developers, and we were well working together to create some real synergy in these products. And it was invaluable, a lot of the experience that I took away from those who've been in the industry for 10, 20, 25 years. And I think that's one of the areas where I got my passion for mentoring. There were a couple of people there who took me under their wing and said, "Look, let me help you, let me support you." And so I owe some of what I am today thanks to their time that they gave up to support me.
Good. Well, like you said, I know the passion is product people, and you just touched on their sort of mentoring. So, I mean, over the years, would there be any sort of particular advice you'd give on, to particular hands-on development managers who may be juggling their time, managing staff, but also still coding?
Yeah, it's a tricky tightrope to walk, and I think that there's an expectation still that a software development manager should be writing code as well as managing teams. I think the most important asset in your company are your people, and having good people and bringing them on is probably the most valuable thing. And I think if you're a software development manager and you've just taken on that role, or perhaps you've been doing it for a couple of years, it's really truly understanding that every person in your team is their own individual. What are their strengths? What are their weaknesses? How can you support them? It's absolutely fantastic that we go out and we understand about agile principles and waterfall principles, But sometimes those frameworks don't support the individual. And I always have this saying to my senior team: a good manager manages process, and then a leader leads their team. And I think if you're a software development manager, like, make sure your process is clear, make sure you've understood your process, make sure that your process makes sense to that team and they've been involved in that process. But then as a leader, lead them, be in the front, be there for them, be their friend, be their support. But most importantly, be honest with them. You know, if they're not having a great time and they're not doing the things they need to do, just be honest with them, because friendship-free leadership doesn't work, and it just ties you up in knots towards the end. And actually, the relationships I have with my staff is they know where they are with me. Sometimes they don't like the answer, but we always come up with a solution together to get them to the right place. And I think that's really important as someone who's juggling those two things. I think manage the process, not the people, but lead the team. And that's my piece of advice that I would give to anybody who's in that place right now.
Yeah, no, it's a good takeaway. So thanks for that. And just obviously the other element in terms of development, sort of keeping up with trends and changes. I mean, how have you sort of kept up with development throughout your career?
How do you keep up with it? It's hard. It's hard to, and actually junior developers have kept me on my toes. And there's this myth that a graduate developer, a junior developer, doesn't know anything. If your team isn't full of junior and graduate developers, you are not keeping up with trends. If you're not promoting your juniors to mids and your mids to seniors, and you don't have a process that works like that, and you're going out into the recruitment market all the time and just buying technology people who've got 10-15 years, like, I don't think you're keeping up with them, because the people that brought those trends and understood them, like I had a graduate interview with me last year, and he was like, oh, I've just done this piece on AI and it's just doing this, and it was just like me 20 years ago, it was just second nature to them. But when you're interviewing a senior and you're saying, so what about AI? Oh, I'm thinking about AI. You know, I'm having to play with it. And I think that keeping up to it is as much about, yes, it's about getting out there and networking and being part of conferences and YouTube and social media in particular, but actually look to your people within your team and look at how your team are bringing that experience in. And as a technical manager, CTO, technical director, are you listening to your team? You know, and that's how in the last 8 years I've kept up with what's going on, is that actually I'm listening to what my team is saying to me, and we're looking at it and we're constantly evaluating it, and conferences and all sorts help. But for me, that's my biggest takeaway. Your team is your biggest source of knowledge there, because they're in it and they're interested in it.
Yeah, again, lots of valid, good points. So yeah, so thanks for that. So just in terms of obviously the here and now, you've been at GoldVision since 2016. Started off there as development manager, and then progressing to technical director 2022, is it?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah. So just in terms of a bit of sort of structure and substance, I mean, who are GoldVision and sort of what product services do they offer?
So GoldVision are their own authors of a CRM product. They're kind of like a boutique business in the sense of they do their own support, they do their own project management, they sell their own CRM software, but we're also consultants within that business also. So we pride ourselves as a company of going in to an SME and saying, well, this is our product, but this is how it can support you. This is what we can integrate with. This is what we would recommend. This is how we can use that. Oh, you want this? We can provide you that support. And I think if you look at quite a lot of other products in that industry space, you know, it's very much like, oh yeah, go and buy this product and go and buy this consultant and go and buy this piece, and you have to bring all those pieces to the pieces of that puzzle together yourself. Whereas for GoldVision, what makes them really successful is it is that one-stop shop of CRM, but experience across multiple industries, in particular construction, software, and industrials is where we like to cut our teeth. But we have customers across multiple sectors.
So in terms of technical director, I mean, never assume, and in the world of recruitment, job titles can often vary wildly and mean different things. What's your remit as tech director?
So, we joke, but director of cups of tea, but it's wide, vast, and varied. I predominantly it's about that strategy of product, the strategy of our infrastructure. But more importantly, recently, it's about keeping ourselves safe. That cybersecurity element of it, AI and cybersecurity got a massive part to play in our current world. And as a technical director in the last, certainly the last 12 months, the pressure I felt to keep us safe has been huge. So not only has the role of technical director evolved, but also where my time has been spent around, safeguarding us from AI opportunities, and also from cyber opportunities as well. And predominantly, it's been about building product and great teams, and that's what I've done for quite a while. We've recently just built from scratch a new marketing product, which I'm really pleased to have done. And we were acquired back in February, and so a large part of my role has been getting the company ready for pre-acquisition and now supporting them in the final stages of post-acquisition.
Yeah, I mean, we're just going to come on to that actually in terms of the recent acquisition. What was the experience and involvement in the sort of pre and post acquisition process?
So I've been quite lucky that I've been involved in two, but I think at GoldVision is probably where I've been the closest and most hands-on. There's an area of when another company is buying a business, they're looking for a business that's got really well-founded processes. They look secure, they feel secure, that you've got a handle on your software, that you've got a handle on, what software you're using. Like 10 years ago, the idea of, you could use this package off the internet because it was free to use. You could use this package off the internet because it's free to use. But there's so many licenses now. So actually, one of the biggest challenges we found as an organization was just trying to take control back of how all the different packages we're using in software development, all the different licenses, and what end users have got on their machines, how they're managing them. So that pre-post acquisition, a lot of people think, oh, well, if you've got it sorted, it's easy. But actually, when you go through it, there's quite a lot of information that they're looking for, and they're looking at things like your BCPs, and they're looking at your incident management plans, when do you test them, and so you're going through those. And as an agile leader, I couldn't just pick it up and send it over. I had to go through it and review it and work with the team and say, look, is that right? Is that still relevant? So quite a lot of work pre and then post acquisition. You're there with new acquirers standards, and they're saying, right, okay, well, this is what we want to use it. Oh, actually, that's not how we do it. So you're having to work with transformational change in your organization of not just processes, but also with people as well, with changing their mindset about how they look at certain things.
That's it. So, the business strategy, the culture, people perspective, but also from sort of systems and technology perspective, and the integration, migration programs, strategies, and trying to sort of blend the two, really.
Indeed, yes.
Good. So, I mean, obviously, in terms of, you're quite prominent in your beliefs in product and people. So it'd be good just to focus a conversation in terms of ultimately what you think, the key factors are to consider when building great team and great product, and if the two sort of sit side by side, hand by hand.
Yeah, to start with, you can have a great team and a great product. And for me, and this is what's always worked for me, is that I like to have a real mix of culture in my team, and when you talk about hiring managers talk about it quite a lot, it's about fit. And someone asked me recently, well, what does fit mean for you as an organization?
Yeah.
And I think for me it's the fit is about collaboration. Can we collaborate with that person? Can we talk with that person? I think the other thing I talk about is honesty. I mean, I've accidentally upset candidates in interviews, and I said as people we're inherently dishonest. We because we don't like to get in trouble. We always like to portray ourselves as something than we're not, because we always want to say we're better. But actually, in a team of people, honesty is the most important currency that you can have, because it's okay to perhaps running late on something, or not understand something, or don't get something. And actually, successful teams and highly motivated teams are ones that understand what honesty really is, accept the fact that people make mistakes, and accept the fact that actually we use those mistakes to be better again and again and again. And I upset our managing director very early on at GoldVision when I portrayed the slide at the company's sort of town hall, and I'd been keeping a tally for about a month, and I said, we've made 400 mistakes this month. And he came to me after, he said, that's, why are you allowing that many mistakes to happen? I was like, well, because if we don't highlight them when we know that these mistakes are happening, how do we learn from them? If we brush them under the carpet, how do we learn from them? And so you go through a really serious pain transition process early on, but actually out of the end of it and recognizing those mistakes and working with your team on those mistakes, actually what you end up with is a team that are really self-motivated to succeed, and really supportive, and new team members coming in and teaching that philosophy that it's okay to fail, but we've got to learn from it.
Yeah. I mean, so over your time then, I mean, how do you say your management style has changed?
Oh, massively. Huge growth. I think as a manager, the first management we learn is management through friendship, and you'll know this, Ben, right?
Yeah.
So the first few people that you ever manage, they're your mate. You want to go down the pub with them or go to the cinema or whatever, because you don't want that confrontation. You're just like, oh. And then at some point in your career, so your manager's manager comes to you and said, look, this is great, but actually you've got to go have this hard conversation, and you suddenly realize that, tell my mate, I don't want to have that conversation with them.
Yeah.
And I think being in retail, that's quite a tough industry, and I think I became quite hard to that. I went through 2 or 3 redundancies in there on both sides of the fence, and I almost became like had this really hard shell, and didn't want to be particularly close to anybody. So it made it really easy for those transactional, like, oh, out you go, you're not doing a great job conversations. But I didn't really have any synergy with my team for a long time, and personally I felt like that was missing. When I came to GoldVision, one of the things that I described them as is a bit of a hippie commune. Is they were very sort of manana in the way that they went about stuff, and it drove me nuts. I'm not going to lie. But one of the things that I really took away from their management style, and it's a really good management style, is that you can have that hardness, you can have that toughness on the outside, but you've got to put your people first. You've got to have that. So as a manager, I've gone through an evolution from being like, oh, you're my mate, let's, to, arm's length. And I'm kind of coming back to like a middle ground now, where I'm sort of like, absolutely understand the people that work with me. I understand have good relationships with them, but they also have that respect that this is their job, and I'm the manager, and it's quite nice to have that blend. And I think it's experiences that you've had along the way that bring you there. But as a manager, and how I manage is so different. And I think if you ask the people that worked with me 8 years ago they'd say, "Oh yeah, Jamie's so different."
Yeah. So I mean, obviously, what's next for you then?
So I'm in a fortunate position where I'm going to leave GoldVision very soon. I've enjoyed my time there very much, but I quite like the idea of having a couple of months off to do some gardening, go on a big family holiday, and look for some other opportunities in the world. I am probably a recruiter's worst nightmare, because they always like, I think you've asked me, what you're looking for, and I said just a great opportunity to build great product or a great team, go fix a problem, and I think for me, I think one of the things that I really do want to do is just enjoy what I'm doing, and I've done my chapter at GoldVision. I've done what I needed to do. There's roles for my team now to move up and move on and grow their careers with those opportunities. And I think as a manager, I recognise the fact that it's time for me to move on, and I'm in that position where I can take some time for myself and enjoy working quite hard for 25 years, but hopefully find something with the right role, just doing something exciting. And I don't know what that looks like. It could be contracting, it could be CTO, it could be a cleaner. I don't know. I'm just excited to see what the world brings.
So it could come 360 way, toast IT of getting paid in biscuits and toast and networking and
exactly.
Maybe not, but yeah, good stuff. Well, look, pleasure as ever, Jamie. Many thanks for your time today. Lots of good takeaways, and very insightful as ever. And thanks for your time.
Thank you, Ben, and hopefully anybody that has watched this has taken something away. And just remember, good product comes from a good team. That's my key takeaway.
Brilliant. Thanks, Jamie.
Thank you, Ben.